Jones lit another cigarette. It was his third in 20 minutes. He'd quit smoking 5 years ago, but in the last 3 weeks, he'd taken it up again. Jennifer, his wife, had only made one comment, but all the same, it was understood. He told her what was going down. They talked about it all night once more. Even more than that. He placed some more besides the humping. Pacing back and forth, his nervous energy had him field stripping the butts without thinking about it. A set of headlights broke around the edge of the hangar and caught him full on, like a trapped deer. He stood quite still, hardly breathing. The private car stopped beside him, and Major Augustus stepped out and stood looking at him. A hard stare, before finally reaching in and turning off the engine and the lights. The two of them had become close during the Gulf War, as close as an NCO and an officer can become. Sergeant Jones didn't know whether to salute or offer a handshake. He hadn't called the meeting and wasn't sure what he was going to say, because the situation was well outside all the formal and usual military protocols. Well outside, far too close to treason, mutiny, and the worst possible crimes a soldier could commit. Major Augustus frowned deeply. He was not happy. But he was a soldier, and before he jumped to any judgments, he wanted to give Sergeant Jones at least a chance to explain. The whole of America's services were in an uproar, and Major Augustus knew that Jones was deeply involved. Knew it in his bones, even though he didn't have any facts yet on which to base this view. But he knew Jones, and he knew Jones was political. Bright, self-educated, and dangerously political. CJ. Major. For a long moment neither spoke. The night was cool, early fall. Crickets sang in a ditch on the other side of the perimeter fence. CJ broke the silence first. I don't want there to be any secrets between us, but you've got to realize that this is a very big, very serious problem. Yes, it is serious, that's for sure, said the Major, emphasizing the words in such a way that it was clear that he thought the sergeant was in a lot of trouble. It started out as a brother thing, you know how that goes, said CJ, reminding the Major that they were both black, and that still meant certain things had to mean certain things. CJ looked at the Major, who was clearly waiting for something to be said. Okay, CJ said. You ever heard of the Greenville Millennium Gazette? The Major nodded. Most folks had. It stirred up a lot of trouble in the year 2000 elections. Not by itself, of course, but a lot of people got the point quickly and started imitating it. Started making their own local news sheets. Didn't get any of the political parties out of office, but they did change the dialogue, that's for sure. People were talking about things now they'd never talked about before, even in the military. CJ continued. About a year ago, at a Ranger reunion, us folks at Fort Rucker and so on, some of the brothers got to talking about things, about coming changes. Everyone can see things still getting worse at home. Everyone's got some family in trouble, in jail, on drugs, whatever. So it came up and it's been talked about before. What if it gets bad and the politicians want the army to go in and fix it? Now, no one wants to be shooting up our old neighborhoods. No one wants to be thinking about these folks as an enemy. We're trained to kill enemies, not our families and neighbors. There was a lot of anger and some real fear. Then this one guy says, solve the problem, so we start talking.
Well, one thing leads to another, and soon we are going back to our units, but there's something different. We talk it. We've got our own kind of renewal meeting going. Doesn't take long before we see that we've got to make our own newspaper, just like everyone else. Somewhere the Chicanos hear about it, and for a while it seems like they might have their own paper, but it gets worked out, one voice for all of us, and the soldier's heart gets born. You know how it is. NCOs run everything. Officers decide, but we get things done. It was easy. We found some good writers, some real thinkers, and it was written. Then the question was timing, when and how. But we run everything, so it wasn't hard. You know, I can call all over the world on my phones, any army base, anywhere. Talk to certain people, use obscure language, double meanings, and that stuff. It was easy. Then the units start getting orders for urban warfare training, and we can see what's coming down next. Doesn't take a brain surgeon, so we decide, and the papers get made, usually off base at coffee shops and stuff. Everyone knows everyone. We all have been transferred many times and many places over the years. We're used to getting stuff done outside the chain of command anyway. You know about the midnight requisition economy? I tell you, it was easy, natural, and necessary.
The major listened. It was expectable. No real surprises, but for him a serious problem. His command obligations were clear. Already there were orders out to find those who made the paper and distribute it. To find them, arrest them, and lock them up forever. All the same, it didn't make much sense. Closing the barn door afterwards kind of thing. Plus, if we start putting these guys in the stockade, many of them no doubt very senior NCOs, some sergeant majors, first sergeants, so on, then unit effectiveness would go into the toilet, as well as morale. After a couple of minutes thinking, Major Augustus made his decision.